professors and others. So I'm thinking that before the end of tomorrow, you will come up with a certain roadmap, a certain framework of how our children who are Mama, the greatest number, more than 50% of 46 million, that's about 23 million who are below the age of 17. And then about 70% of the 46 being below the age of 35. We are looking forward to now, when we receive the report, ma'am, of this conference, to hear that now there is a framework of the thinkers who are here of how this can be delivered. Once that is done, Mama, I think we will be the best and the happiest people, and we will see our nation be where it's going to be. Allow me, Mama, now to invite our Honorable Member of Parliament and Chair for the committee, whom the Chair for National Council and others have already appreciated, and he has traveled all the way from Kampala to come and be here to listen in to what is cooking. Allow me to invite him to come, and then he will invite you to speak. Thank you, Mama. Once again, welcome.
Thank you. Now, the Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, who is none other than Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, Honorable Member of Parliament representing Mbarara City, Woman Member of Parliament, Honorable Rita Akwasa, the Permanent Secretary, the Chairperson of the Council, of National Council for Higher Education, the Executive Director of National Council for Higher Education, and all Vice Chancellors, Deputy Vice Chancellors. I think protocol observed. Mama, we are very delighted to be here, and the subject is about artificial intelligence. And to me, I have nothing useful to add in as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. Nothing useful to add because all has been said by Professor Muganga. Now, Professor Muganga, you are preaching to the converted that the committee indeed supports the sector when it comes to budgeting. And it is also the committee's request that with the efforts of the Minister of Education and Sports, we always tussle with her with the Minister of Finance. So, Mama, you continue supporting us to ensure that we get more resources. So, and I'm sure Professor Muganga has just invited himself to the committee. So we are proposing that the private universities can be coming at some other appropriate time, and then we do some kind of brainstorming. Like I said, I'm not talking anything about artificial intelligence. Now, Dr. Professor Okwakol, like Dr. Muganga, Professor Muganga said, the committee, the National Council for Higher Education, is really very lean. Yet more universities are coming up day and night. So it is also our humble request that the minister, with the committee, will continue bargaining for more resources, because this is going to create effectiveness of the National Council for Higher Education. And the National Council for Higher Education, how I wish that we will be having interaction with the universities. Could it be even twice a year, that most of the questions you ask you would be reduced, simply because you've been in close touch with them. So that is our humble request, that if you could interact with them frequently. Now, the other one is that as long as we have talked about artificial intelligence, why don't we, as universities, specialize in given courses that do job creation, other than churning out so many of the same courses? And of course, the burden, Mama, is on we, the politicians, looking for jobs. So can we use the artificial intelligence to find out where jobs are, and then we create courses that can also create jobs for the students? I think let's use artificial intelligence, and I'm sure that one can work. So with those very many comments, it is now my humble request and honor to call upon the chief guest, Mama Janet Museveni, to come and address this gathering. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Secretary. Gathered here today, I believe you are all very tired by this time. As you've said, you've listened to so many and you've said everything there is to say. You must be tired, but please give me a little time also and listen to what I have to say. Now, members of Parliament present here, the Vice Chancellors, the Chairperson and Executive Director of the National Council for Higher Education, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. I must say it is a real pleasure for me to be here today to join you at this annual Higher Education Conference. I trust that you understand when sometimes my work schedule withholds me from being with you on some of these conferences. So I thank the National Council for Higher Education for taking the lead in convening these events regularly, which are also an opportunity to increase the visibility of the profile of higher education in our country. Nonetheless, I trust that the deliberations you engage in such a gathering do contribute to the improvement of the quality of higher education for everybody's sake. First and foremost, in the eyes of the learners for whom you exist. Second, the society where your individual higher education institutions are located. This is in addition to Uganda, whose national vision of societal transformation from peasantry to a modern and prosperous nation requires graduates with appropriate competencies, values, and attributes such as patriotism and others that you've been discussing. I take note that this is the 6th annual Higher Education Conference and the 15th Higher Education Exhibition. I often challenge organizers of such recurrent gatherings that it is very important to set tangible and realistic goals of what you would like to see achieved within the period between now and the next gathering, and a system of monitoring and evaluating your goals to ensure that you stay on course. This sends a strong signal to all who care about such a gathering that it is never business as usual, and they realize the loss of their missing out on such events if they miss out. So everybody tries to be in place when they hear that there is another gathering such as this one. Tangibility of goals in such gathering is a key motivator of participation. It also increases level of engagement with the various stakeholders. Therefore, it is important that as a higher education fraternity, you always set aside time to also evaluate such events and their outcomes. You need to check whether you are still pursuing the objectives that the founders or organizers had in mind to contribute to educational and national development. And this reminds me of the Apostle Paul. I'm sure you knew I would come up with something spiritual. It reminds me of the Apostle Paul in the Bible, when he challenged the body of believers in Jesus Christ who were in the church at Philippi. In his letter to them, as written in the epistle to the Philippians, chapter 3, verse 12, the Apostle Paul said, in quotes, "Not that I have already obtained all this, or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me." Unquote. Just as it were for the Apostle Paul, who had a clear goal set before him and never assumed that he had already attained it, we too ought to do the same in terms of clarity of goals and pressing on to achieve what we set out to do in the first place. Of course, for the higher education subsector, what you want to test yourselves in is whether you are still on course of your original objective for the subsector. Then, you also must regularly check up on whether the goals of events like this one of today align with the original mission and purpose of why you exist as a higher education institution in the first place. It is possible to drift away in the current dynamic environment that has such a high turnover of innovations and information. Therefore, as a higher education subsector and the institutions, it is imperative for you to be cognizant all the time that it is possible to drift away from your original mission and purpose. In contemporary times, one of the pressures that cause mission drift is the rate of technological and information advancement, especially when the pursuit of such becomes an end as opposed to being a means to the desired end. There is so much change happening at such a very fast rate in the information and technological space. I'm told that sometimes this change happens within weeks, especially in the field of computer science, because a lot of research is generating new knowledge, and unfortunately, organizations and institutions, including the higher education subsector, find themselves under pressure to keep up with the pace of change, to be seen as not being left behind. However, with every innovation, including technological advancement, it is wiser to neither jump into the deep end of the swimming pool, nor to fill the waters with both feet, but rather to move forward and cautiously and systematically. I am told that the recent technological advancement in information and communication technology, ICT, computer systems that have popularized what we know today as artificial intelligence, are neither new nor a recent invention. Artificial, and somebody said that before me. Artificial intelligence, the science of creating computer systems that mimic human intelligence abilities, such as learning, reasoning, decision-making, and ultimately problem-solving abilities, is still a phenomenon that is not well understood by most of us within the context of the higher education institutions. However, what popularizes the artificial intelligence phenomenon is the fact that computers have become a common feature of our lives. We have computers in the form of watches. People wear the watches people wear, the mobile phones and digital tablets in people's hands all the time. Office appliances like printers, desktops, and laptops. In some homes, there are appliances such as refrigerators, television sets, and digital kitchen appliances like cookers and microwave machines, the vehicles people drive in, and so forth. So, some form of artificial intelligence is already with us, I guess, in things that surround people in their day-to-day lives. Over the years, higher education has made a big contribution in generation of transformative innovations that have led to the development of the modern artificial intelligence that we know today. However, as most of you know, the desire and efforts to have machines do things that human beings can do dates to thousands of years ago, and not just a few years, but thousands of years ago. Therefore, the challenge that a young higher education subsector in this country that it faces is about how to cope now with a rapidly evolving technology in the social, cultural, and economic context that is significantly different from that of societies where the application of artificial intelligence innovation is advanced. I'm sure this is the basis for the theme of this 6th Annual Higher Education Conference, which, as you know, it talks about challenges, best practices, and strategies for artificial intelligence integration in higher education in Uganda. This is something all of us know that we as a nation need to look at this. And I'm so grateful that you put together this gathering, that you may discuss this, because you are the minds we trust, and you can make the time to sit together like you've done here to discuss what matters in our world today. As the late Mwalimu Julius Nyerere used to say of Africa, where others walk, Africa must run to catch up with the rest of the world. Our higher education subsector finds itself in such a situation of having to run to catch up with this race of technological advancement called artificial intelligence. The subsector must not only participate in the race as a consumer of artificial intelligence. First, the higher education subsector should strive to ensure that our children understand the workings of artificial intelligence. This is absolutely vital. Then, aspire to become a meaningful contributor to further advancement of this technology from our own perspective. As a subsector sets itself the challenge of participating in this race of artificial intelligence, higher education, and indeed all interested in being part of it, must take time to appreciate the rules governing this race. The Apostle Paul, again, wrote to his spiritual son Timothy in second letter to Timothy, chapter 2, verse 5 in the Bible, saying, in quotes, "And also if anyone competes in athletics, he is not crowned unless he competes according to the rules." Unquote. Rules are very important guardrails in our lives, without which we do not get the best and most out of the opportunities that surround us. Understanding the rules within the best practices of artificial intelligence is necessary, first and foremost. This is an area that higher education needs to pay attention to and invest in for two reasons. One, the rate of change in the new knowledge about the field of artificial intelligence is so high. Second, the subsector is a place for nurturing young minds into becoming productive citizenry. These two factors necessitate vigilance in ensuring that the rules of engagement with artificial intelligence in higher education protect both the learners and other consumers of the products and services of this subsector, as well as in our society at large. Artificial intelligence puts to the test now the limits of virtues such as positive work ethic, originality, authenticity, honesty, and interpersonal skills such as collaboration, such virtues and honesty and interpersonal skills such as collaboration. Such virtues are desirable not only in academia but also in the world of work as well as in life, generally speaking. Some may ask now, if the computer can do the reasoning for me, identify where the problem is, and even tell me the best solution, as Dr. Muganga was suggesting, what is the point of me exerting my brain? Why not simply trust the computer to do everything? In a way, artificial intelligence poses a form of moral dilemma. For example, in the way we have been learning to learn, artificial intelligence confronts the learner with having to choose between working it out alone on his or her computer vis-a-vis collaborating with other peers. If I can describe to the computer this problem that I have been tasked to solve, and within minutes the computer answers with extensive information as to the possible solution, why do I need to collaborate with my peers who will take days solving the same problem? The learner and even the lecturer may ask. So perhaps artificial intelligence is now shining the torch back on those things that are virtuous in life and transcend seasons, times, and trends, because that is what human beings ought to be like in the first place. These virtues are the values that have helped mankind navigate difficult moments and opportunities in our history of existence. Virtues like honesty, authenticity, collaboration, a positive work ethic, compassion, interpersonal skills, and so on and so forth. Therefore, in the advent of artificial intelligence, higher education training must be intentional with its curricula and programs. There should be intentionality to develop learning strategies that still provide for learners to graduate from these institutions when they are still behaving like human beings ought to behave. Young people, especially in our society, should be guided in developing healthy interpersonal skills that make them live with others in society, as opposed to becoming impersonal beings because of addiction to digital gadgets and the technology therein, such as artificial intelligence. Perhaps higher education should interest itself in finding out whether artificial intelligence influences the extent of addiction to digital gadgets. Please remember that the communities where these young people, your learners, where they come from, they have the majority people commonly referred to as BBC. I don't know whether you've heard of that. BBC means born before computer age. Therefore, these young people do not have adults in their lives back home who can provide informed guidance to them regarding responsible interaction with digital gadgets. Young people ought to know that they are duty-bound to ensure that they must not lose value humankind hold dear. Otherwise, God would never have given us those values. Furthermore, higher education institutions are at the apex of the education system. A smaller proportion of the education system, yet generating a high volume of knowledge, information, innovations, and inventions as solutions to society's most pressing challenges. That's what higher education institutions are supposed to provide. With this in view, artificial intelligence application in higher education should not be divorced from the context of the society or environment where these institutions of learning are located. You must remain relevant by first and foremost becoming a source of tangible and pragmatic solutions to the communities where your institutions are located. An ordinary person who is struggling to increase productivity on her 1 acre of land does not need to be taught how to apply artificial intelligence to solve her problem. After all, such a person may be one of those BBC, implying that they are most likely to be computer illiterate. However, you who have had the benefit of understanding how artificial intelligence is valuable, simply engage with this person. Listen to their story and work with them to produce a solution that solves their productivity challenge. That is what the relevance of higher education feels like to the ordinary person. And that's how you can be valued in our communities. Therefore, in your aspirations to receive acclaim as being compliant with trends in artificial intelligence, remember to keep your feet on the ground, because that is where your relevance as higher education is experienced. It is therefore important that the application of artificial intelligence in higher education in our context does not take us back to the ivory towers syndrome, whereby these institutions become detached and out of touch with the communities and society where they are located, In other words, you must live within our world to be relevant to our world. Artificial intelligence should make it easier for higher education to come up with remedies that are relevant and can be associated with the day-to-day realities of the communities around these institutions. That way, community engagement with the higher education is enhanced, as opposed to this wonderful innovation technology becoming a source of institutional disconnect with the community and society in general. Earlier this month, I presided over the release of the 2024 Uganda Advanced Certificate of Education examination results. While giving my remarks, I re-echoed the need to higher education institutions to realign themselves with the competence-based and learner-centered learning methodologies already in use in the curricula at both O and A level. This will require that universities retool all the academic staff to be able to acquire new skills to teach using learner-centered methodologies. Now, I must say that it goes without saying that with artificial intelligence integration in higher education, retooling of your human resource is of necessity if you are to harness the capabilities of this phenomenon. Therefore, investment in retooling in higher education institutions is of necessity, not only because of artificial intelligence, but also the reforms generally already happening in the basic and secondary education system, especially in the areas of the curriculum. Now, you very well know that there is no concrete evidence that has come up to support the notion that the use of educational digital gadgets has necessarily contributed to the improvement in attainment of learning outcomes, and not just in basic and secondary levels of education alone. On the contrary, there is evidence that educational digital gadgets have interfered with the learner's ability to learn how to learn. We learn how to learn through basic routines like observation, reading, writing, collaboration, interaction with a learning facilitator, interpersonal feedback, and the like. It is well known that educational digital gadgets do interfere with the above processes of learning, how to learn, because the people factor gets compromised. And the young people become engrossed in their digital gadgets. They don't listen to people anymore. They don't listen even to teachers sometimes. In the workplaces, products of higher education struggle to interact with colleagues at work to collaboratively solve clients' problems. Therefore, in the pursuit of integration of artificial intelligence in the work you do as higher education institutions, the basics of the process of learning how to learn must be jealously guarded and not compromised in the pursuit of the use of this technological innovation. You may want to interest yourselves in studying more about why places like Finland, Sweden, England, Italy, Hungary and countries of Europe. And others have placed either total bans or significant restrictions on handheld mobile gadgets in the classrooms because they see the problems these gadgets are causing to learners. Find out from these education systems whether there are insights to be gained in responsible integration of artificial intelligence-enabled gadgets in the classroom in higher education in this country. In conclusion, artificial intelligence as a phenomenon brings both opportunities and challenges that not only the higher education institutions, but the entire education system in our country needs to study and learn how to manage for optimum benefit. The challenges and opportunities notwithstanding, artificial intelligence should not become an end to be pursued by higher education, but an enabler to facilitate achievement of mission objectives for the subsector. When all is said and done, higher education relevance will be measured through the lenses of relevance to society in solving pressing challenges the communities are facing. That's what these higher institutions were meant to be. Please keep that in mind. The relevance of higher education cannot be separated from the ability of its learners to learn how to learn. Engage in critical thinking, interpersonal skills, problem solving, emotional intelligence, and executive skills, among other critical workplace desirable competencies. These are the virtues that higher education should jealously guard, not to be compromised by emerging technology advancements such as artificial intelligence. This is not to say that we should ignore artificial intelligence. No. As I started off by saying, you, being a community of learners, you find time, and I know that we have to give you some work guidelines, and we will. But please make sure that what you are doing is for the benefit of our country, our communities, the learners you have within your institutions, not just for a flag. And I know for a fact that God is never late. When it's His timing, we will have the funding it will take to invest in AI. I have said many times, we shouldn't be so frustrated and so impatient sometimes because other people are running faster than we are. We will get there. Thank you, and I now declare this 6th Annual Higher Education Conference officially open. God bless you.
Chairperson, can we all stand up and clap for Mama?
we thank you for your speech. Take your seats. We thank you for the time you have given this conference. She has listened. She has taken note. We don't take it for granted, Mama. You remain our best Minister of Education. And as a National Council, we are so grateful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we are finalizing. Allow me to make one or two comments. Mama, we are grateful to Stanbic. They did some sponsorship and ED asked me to say something. They did some contribution, Stanbic, with their branch manager of Umbarara, Nathan, thank you, Mwebesa. We want to thank Hotel Triangle for the good service and all the other service providers. We want to thank UBC, who have carried this function live to all Ugandans. We don't take it for granted. And MUB, Makerere University Business School, who are running it on social media and YouTube and the other rest. We don't take it for granted. And with that, we are going to have the anthems. But Mama, on a special note, allow me to thank your team. Gloria, Becca, Irene, and the other people they work with, they make our work so easy where you are not. We thank you. I know, may God bless you. Can we have the anthems, one stanza each? Then, but before that, we shall have, Mama, can you allow to take only 3 photos? Wow, she has accepted. Now, these photos, the first group will be council members and the vice chancellors. Then the second photo will be Mary's boys and girls, the staff of National Council. Then the third one, Mama has accepted to take a photo with the student leaders who are represented here. Yes, the photos will be after anthems. I thought I would make this announcement, so that after that I will not make any other more announcement. Can we stand up for the anthems?